Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Here's Why You're Wrong. We are, this time, looks like, really going out live for real this time. So that's exciting stuff. I have Jim with me. I have Bryan with me. I am Mick. We've got Mike and John over in the booth.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about religion. Specifically, we're going to be talking about religion and politics
Part
today.
two.
What's that?
Part two.
Part
Yeah.
two, exactly. And so if you want to join the discussion, give us a call.
Please give us.
Please give us a call. We want to talk to people, especially if you disagree with us, because that's fun. Then we get to tell you why you're wrong. The phone number is 503-207-7135. You can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/wrongtvshow if you want to like us on Facebook, and then you get notified about upcoming shows and things like that. So we like to start each show talking about a little bit of current events. Last time we had our show 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Syria. Surprise, surprise, it's still in the news. And, you know, I wanted to just sort of follow up with that. And I knew last time, I said, all right, well, in 2 weeks we will know which way this has gone, one way or the other. At this point, I mean, 2 weeks ago it was we're gonna bomb them, we're gonna fire missiles in there. I got to go to Congress, I got to get this and that. There was a whole bunch of blowback on that. Russia stepped in to be the voice of reason, which is sort of crazy in and of itself. But
Thanks, Russia.
Yeah. Thanks, Putin. It sounds like they came something like that. Yes, that's what I always think of when I think of his name. Excuse me, but. Seems like they've come to some sort of agreement. Russia says, wait, don't bomb them. I got this under control. They've agreed to do this. Obama backed off, said, all right, we're going to go to the UN. We're going to let them go through this. And so it's de-escalated a little bit. I think Obama would like to say it's only de-escalated because I escalated it to begin with and scared them, so they had to agree to Russia's thing, which may be true. That's a valid point. After our show last time, we talked about it and we couldn't figure out what should we do. You guys did not think we should bomb them. And I didn't necessarily think we should, but I was just bringing it up for the discussion. Nobody seemed to think we should bomb them, and I kept poking you and saying, well, then what do we do? Then come up with something. And after the show, John came up with a great idea. I think he came up with it during the show, but he didn't want to share it to us. And I want to run this by you guys because I thought, wow, that's brilliant. So here's what you do. You get an international body. The UN is supposed to be doing it, but they're not.
So first we have to make a new international body?
Well, there is the International Criminal Court, which does this sort of thing.
Okay.
You have some sort of international body. Are you remembering this now, John? You have an international body of some sort that is agreed upon by most of the world, like the UN or something. They decide for themselves, this leader has to go. We're going to put out a warrant for this guy. Okay, we're done with him. He's been gassing his people. You can offer a reward if you want. I don't know how you want to do it, but you say, listen, here's a warrant for this guy. It's not a agreement to go bomb or do anything else, but we want to take this guy out. Whichever country wants to send in SEAL Team 6, either bring this guy back or blow him away, you've sort of got international rights to do so. What that does is it scares the leader. You know, you're not punishing his people for something he's doing. It puts him on notice that, all right, you're going to get a sniper up your butt in about 2 seconds here. The next leader that comes in is not going to be so quick to use gas on his own people. Doesn't really hurt the people of that country. You get the whole world involved in it. I thought that was brilliant. Did I sum that up right, John? Pretty much? It's got an international component because you're getting people to sign off on it. You're not bombing people, which wouldn't do anything because he would just hide and then come back and do it again. You're getting the guy who's actually making the decisions, and you're killing him or cutting off the head, so to speak. Thoughts?
The other thing out of it is you're not going in wholesale killing the guy. You've sworn out a warrant. You've arrested him, and it's the rule of law.
Right.
So we don't wind up with this assassinating leaders of countries that we disagree with. That their criminal charges filed. He's tried in a court of law. So every effort must be made to bring them in alive.
Sure. But if he puts up a fight and he dies, oh well.
well, then you isolate him more. I mean, ultimately, maybe yes, you're going to use force, but you make it clear to the people of that country that we want him, not you.
Right.
And he's the bad guy.
Right.
And he'll be tried. And it was in your best interest to turn him over to us.
It puts them on notice, and I think would be a good deterrent for future dictators. I mean, what's wrong with that sort of a policy? That makes great sense to me. What do you guys think?
You know, this show is probably a really bad show for me to be on because I love to argue things for the sake of arguing them. So if I were going to be, so let me tell you why that's wrong.
You want to be devil's advocate on this?
Okay. The question I would have, I'm not a political scientist, is the autonomy and sovereignty of nations, right? So even though you've got an international body, you still, it seems to me that those other countries would have to voluntarily give that group the authority, and really a greater authority than their own sovereignty to, you know, to enforce some kind of law. You know, so I mean, it seems like there's a lot of steps that would need to be taken. Like, what is the law? The world's going to need to agree on what is that law. What are we going to allow to be enforced in our sovereign country? But it seems
we've
like
sort of done that. I mean,
yeah.
When it comes to chemical weapons,
Yeah.
the world has sort of agreed we're not going to use this, and that doesn't mean that every single country, but the major ones are the ones that we need to support. Same with the International Criminal Court. Enough major powers come together. Now, in that case, America said no, we're not going to be part of it. We're not going to, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need to get, you know, Zimbabwe to agree to the thing. I mean, but if you get all the major powers in the world, then at least when you go in and you take this guy out, it doesn't seem like you're acting on your own unilaterally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the point. I don't think you need sovereignty to really be.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad. I just think that it would have many of the same problems that the UN has, because ultimately
I agree.
You'd have a body that has some authority, but kind of only as much authority as individual nations kind of agree to give it. And so
we've used this already.
Yeah.
In the war in Bosnia, we arrested a number of the Serbian leaders, and they were charged with crimes against humanity. Idi Amin, people like that have already been run out of power. So there is precedent for using this.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean those countries have to sign on it. We set a level, and it should be fairly high. I mean, you're not going to go in because he's defrauding the people or something like that. That's an internal problem.
Right, and we do that in America too. So.
But if crimes against humanity,
right,
genocide, things like that,
sure,
that maybe we need to step in on as a world, not just the United States, but and whether it's the United Nations or the World Court or somebody that can make that decision, and everybody, and the UN, for instance, would give input on where the bar is set.
Well, I just like the idea of holding the leader responsible instead of bombing the city or the military, even, because they're following orders, and you need to send it. You know, you need to cut off the head of the snake, sort of, if you want everything to go better. So I thought that was a great idea. Jim, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you already have the United Nations, and you said the major countries, China and Russia, vetoed.
Yeah, this veto power thing is ridiculous. I mean, it just cuts everything off at the knees.
What do you want to have, like, the majority of the countries, if more than 50% say cut the head off, then
do 75%. It doesn't necessarily need to be a 50% split, but majority rules, yes, this one country can veto everything, just makes it completely ineffective, because you got a case like this where Russia or somebody, you know, is close with that country. They don't want you to go in, and they just say, nope, I'm exercising my veto. And that's garbage. When the rest of the world thinks we should do something, you're in the minority. You got to step back sometimes and say, no, all right, go ahead. I mean, that's where we lose all the power. So that's why the UN is so worthless at this point, it seems.
it seems like that's part of the challenge of this body or the UN or anybody, is just politics, is then international politics making a decision about who's, you know, whether or not we're going to keep a leader in or what. It's just, it's
not going to be clean.
Questions.
Yes, it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be cut and dry, but majority is a reasonable rule. I mean, you know, going back through time, it's like we're never going to be unanimous on things, or very rarely. Sometimes you just got to say, okay, let's put it to a vote. And, you know, I'm okay with making it 75% or 80%, you know, it's just so you don't get the 51-49 split and nuke somebody. But
well, what if the, you know, 20% of the people disagree strongly enough to start a war against the other 80%? Well,
then they're going to do that whether they're part of this body or not. They're going to retaliate when you, I mean, they'd be pretty stupid to fight back against America over, something like that. But I don't think being part of the body means you're going to abide by what they say and what they vote on, and that's the way it goes. I don't think you get to, then you're out of the group, and then you're next on the list, I'd say, if you do that kind of crap. That's what I would say when I'm in charge.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens with, still nothing was wrapped up by this show, certainly. It was like still the ball's in play. We'll see what happens.
It was nice to see diplomacy
It was.
have an impact on things, that we didn't just have to go to some sort of military action, that other nations stepped in and helped the process along, which seems to me like exactly, or at least along the lines of what we said last week. And it was, I was happy to see that other people took
Cooler
a
heads
position,
prevail.
and helped make something happen that stopped bombs from falling.
I think the Obama administration would paint it that, again, that us bringing it to this extreme and threatening to bomb them brought this discussion about. Otherwise, he never would have cared. We never would have had this. And that's a valid argument to make. I don't know that that's right. There's no way to prove it. But, yeah, I'm glad that we took it to the edge. He said, all right, I'll go to Congress. They said, okay, wait. He said, all right, I'll wait for the UN. And we sort of then backed down, and now we're trying to deal with it. We'll see how it all plays out.
And you are aware that after all this, he immediately started bombing his people again.
Well,
No gas so far, but
yeah,
that's
it's
the big thing.
It's an
Killing him
interesting
with
line
something.
we draw. It's an interesting line we draw where we say, a bomb that kills 10,000 people, okay. Gas that kills 1,000, not okay. I'm not gonna. We could spend a whole hour on that line. Who knows?
Well, something different from when Bush decided to have a war in Iraq, and much of the world said no. Remember that they have demonstrations across the world, no war. He just went ahead and did it anyway, based on lies and deceit. This time, people stood up and said no, and he didn't do the bombing. Obama didn't do the bombing. I think that's a big change.
I think admitting, well, I don't know that I would say he'd admitted he was wrong, but being able to change your mind and listen to input and back down is important in a leader, and I'm glad to see that he did that. But, maybe that was his end game all along. I don't know. Let's talk about religion, the real topic of today's show. We chatted.
I think there was another mass shooting again.
Oh, the Navy Yard.
The Navy Yard. So another lunatic got guns and.
Well, and this is sort of a clear case of mental problems. I mean, there really can be no argument here. The guy had a history, and it's a matter of how did all of these red flags not get noticed all the way up the chain, years and years and years, and then he flew off the handle, and who's to blame for that? I don't know.
I mean, if he would have had a sword instead of what he had, a shotgun or a...
He had a shotgun.
I don't know. I mean, he could have hacked some people, but I don't think 12 people would be dead.
Well, he got secret clearance. Like, he got, not only can he buy guns, but I mean, he passed a whole ton of checks that he probably should not have passed. So I think there's a greater question there.
he also, after he ran out of shells with a shotgun, he had acquired a pistol that he got off one of the security people there.
Right.
That he shot.
Right.
Right.
But I don't know if that's a question of gun control because he took it off of, someone who had a gun. I guess you could argue that, well, the guy had a gun. It didn't do him very much good because now he's dead and the guy used his gun to kill other people. So there's certainly an argument to be made there. Another gun control show is probably in our future here at some point because that is a spicy topic.
But it's a current, a serious current event that.
It is. It's a tragedy.
If you look at the frequency of these mass shootings before Obama leaves office, they're going to have we'll have another, I don't know, what is it, 12 or 14? If you look at the frequency of them.
Well,
and people, I mean, you look at the agony and that it comes. I mean, it hasn't affected us directly, but
the fact that after all this, and I forget gun control necessarily, but the fact that we can't even have a discussion about it in this country is sick. I blame the NRA for it. Their lobbying efforts are.
And who's behind those lobbying efforts? The arms industries.
Right. I mean, it's just completely laughable. I don't care if you're for gun control or against it. The fact that we can't discuss it, we can't put anything on the table, the fact that the NRA defunded studies on gun control for the last 20 years, we can't even have a study on it because of them, is absolutely crazy and is a shame. But as I say, separate show, we should have one on gun control. I think that's an interesting one.
All right.
So last time we talked about religion a little bit. I was sort of, just to bring everybody up to speed, sort of the opinion that I believe in God. I think we established that.
How did you finally get out of the Rajneeshis?
The robe just wasn't my color, I
Okay.
think was really what it was.
But you kept the bulb thing.
I kept the bald thing
Did you
going.
kept the
Some things
Bentley,
stay.
though?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
No, I believe in God, and that's where I leave the discussion. I don't know. What is it? A guy with
You're
a beard?
a theist? What is it? Deist.
I'm a
Okay.
deist. I don't know anything beyond that. He's out there. He or she is out there. Who knows what he's doing? I don't know anything beyond that. I am sort of tired of sounding like the crazy one when I question things in the Bible. You know, when people are like, wait a minute, you don't believe in Jesus. And it's like, right. Yeah, I'm not. You believe that some guy built a boat and put 2 of each animal on it, and that's fine, but don't make me the crazy one, okay? You can believe that all you want. And my ultimate thing is just don't push it on me. You want to believe what you want, that's great. Don't push it on me. Don't recruit me at the grocery store. Don't do this. I don't care. The ultimate level of push it on me is when religion enters politics, okay? Because this is your religion affecting the laws that affect me, the land, everything. And this is, an epidemic in this country, really. I mean, we've got, abortion laws and things like that that people get very, very passionate about. I think mostly from a religious standpoint, although some is just from a moral standpoint. Gay marriage should not be a discussion of religion at all. It's just not about religion. It's about 2 people wanting to marry each other, but it's the religious right that is totally against it, stopping that over and over again. We've got...
Do you think people should be able to marry animals if they want? I'm just curious. Do you?
No.
Okay, so it has to be people at least.
Yes.
Okay.
And people who
All
make
right.
that argument, that's just a ridiculously
I'm
insulting
not
argument.
making.
I know you're not making that
Yeah,
argument.
I'm just curious. Yeah.
No, but I mean, people say that all the time. Well, what's next? People are going to be marrying pigs.
Fiona,
I mean,
come here, Fifi.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah,
Oh
that's,
my gosh.
that's Jim's dog. No, that's a crazy argument to make. Let's use a little bit of common sense in this
Okay.
country. It's not the same thing at all. And if a white man wanted to marry a black woman and you made the same argument, well, what next? He's going to marry a chicken. That's crazy. This is about people's rights, and the religious right has completely taken that. The politicians, predominantly right-wing, okay, let's be honest, these are not lefties that are doing it.
Religion and politics there's a lot of overlap.
Well, that's
They're
the point.
very similar, yeah, very
But
similar.
I think that the right wing has latched onto that and said, boy, here's something I can rally my base
Right.
around. Now, do they really even believe it? The politicians themselves, let's say. I don't know. Either they're foolish enough to believe some of the things that they say, or they're just a liar. Either way, it's a lose-lose for me. But, they've said, okay, here's something that I can get people to follow me on, and I can pretend
right.
to be
Shared
to follow
values, external threats like the Arabs are coming or something, so
Right.
tends to solidify people, and you can use that as a voting block.
The destruction
yeah.
of marriage. This is going to destroy marriage as
Right.
we know it. This is this and that.
Shared values.
Yeah, I don't share your values. I don't share those values. Those are religious values, and they have no place in politics here as far as I'm concerned. Bryan, I know you've got a lot to say on this.
There's a lot to say, and so I'm wow, I could just go on and on.
Pick a place.
So my theory is, I think it's fairly, most people would agree, in the 70s with Roe v. Wade, there's a lot of upset in this country, and I think there was a sense, and I remember it, some of it when I was a kid, there was a sense among religious people that they were not being represented. In fact, if going way back to about 1978 or something like that, my mom was part of a March on Washington, which was one of the big early marches on Washington, probably about 1978 or something like that, where and it was all about
63, wasn't that the march on the Civil Rights March on
yeah.
1963?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Your
that's
mother
not-
was part of that?
No, excuse me. No, I didn't mean to say it was the first one. One of the early ones. It was just, I don't know, we've had other ones since then, but yeah, 63 is the first, so didn't mean to say that That's what it was. But
What was the point of the one she was involved in?
I think it was kind of the early days, and the moral majority was beginning to be, So what was beginning to happen is that Christians were beginning to raise their hands and saying, we have votes. We vote in this country, and we don't agree with some of the positions that are being taken by this country. And I think that there was a sense of alienation by then, and I think that they then began to push. By the way, I'm saying this. I'm not supporting this. I'm just saying that then they then began to lobby the government for changes in some of these policies, and I think that at some point politicians saw an opportunity. There's a whole bunch of people here that are feeling disenfranchised with the process. Well, by golly, we're going to support these good Christian American, whatever, and take up some of these issues. And so I believe, and I think it just really grew through the 80s, but things particularly around moral issues, abortion and homosexuality, it just became, politicians began to throw fresh meat to people who really wanted it. And I think that an uncomfortable marriage was born between the right-leaning political groups and Christians. And
well, this argument that this is a Christian country,
mm-hmm.
and that we're founded on Christian principle, and this comes up over and over again with politicians. That's such
true.
crap.
It is crap.
It's such crap.
Well,
listen, we
Thomas
came here to
Paine.
get away from this.
Yeah.
This is why this country exists, is because of nut jobs like you that ran us out of England because we didn't want to be part of that church.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so the argument that this is a Christian, and then people will say, well, all the founding fathers they would have wanted this and this, and no, they wouldn't have.
There's a book, and I wish I could remember the author's name, called The Search for Christian America.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really well done, written by a Christian, where he basically goes back and investigates. That's his whole thesis, is to go back and look for Christian America. And at the end of it, he says, it never existed.
Mm-hmm.
It never.
We have Michelle on the line.
Michelle's on the line. Okay, we'll patch her through, and we'll see if we can hear
Let's
you.
listen.
Are you there,
Yeah.
Michelle? I can't hear her yet in here. I got nothing. You got the...
Hang in there, Michelle.
Oh.
Hello?
No. Hey, Michelle.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Hello?
Yep.
Hello.
Yeah, can
We
you
can
hear
hear
us?
you.
Hi. One of the things I would like to comment is the assumption that all Christians are right wing.
Yeah.
And I think one of the important things is that Christians can run the whole gamut of politics.
That's true. You think that I painted all Christians as being right-wing?
I haven't finished my thought on that yet.
I
by the
probably
way.
did.
Yeah.
I'm not denying it.
Yeah.
But is that, you feel like I've done that, Michelle? Oh, Michelle, you still there? Yeah.
Not you necessarily, and I'm sorry, but I don't remember the name of the person in the middle.
That's Brian.
Me? Hi, I'm
And I
Brian.
felt like he was.
Sorry.
Oh.
Hi, Brian.
I really don't believe that. By the way, I haven't finished up. So I think I think that's a really important point, that's absolutely not true. I think that what's happened, I was kind of going back and sort of talking about where we've wound up with by having the so-called Christian right, which the end of my thought on that whole thing is that's a huge problem. Having something called the Christian right
Right.
is a disaster, in my opinion, for Christianity. To have Christianity be equated as being equal with a political position is the worst, one of the worst possible things that could happen to Christianity, Michelle, in my opinion. So I totally agree with you.
I think it's a case, and Michelle, can I get you to turn down your TV? Because there's a delay between, so when you're on the phone, we need the TV turned down. But I think that it's not fair to say that all Christians are right-wing, certainly.
Absolutely.
But can we say that the vast majority of right-wings are Christian?
No.
I feel like I almost can.
I think
The
a lot of
majority.
people,
I'm not saying 100. I can never say 100%.
I just want to say a lot of right-wingers use Christian talk to rationalize their position.
Well, yes.
There's a big difference between people who use Christian vernacular and attempt to just like wars, it's funny when a country goes to war, all of a sudden the president or the prime minister is quoting the Bible and talking about how God's on our side. It's the same exact thing. And so
yes.
I think just because people talk that way,
Well, no, I'm not saying they believe it.
doesn't mean that they're Christian. So I would say absolutely not. I think that Christianity is very convenient. I guess
Is
that's
Michelle
kind of the end
still
of my
there?
point.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Michelle, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
So,
I'm
why not-
having trouble hearing you, but I think I'm getting it.
So are you, can I ask if you are, so you think of yourself as a Christian?
I do consider myself a Christian, but I don't believe in a lot of the right-wing politics.
Okay, so you don't. Are you like an independent politically more, or where would you say you are?
I'm more of a Democrat, definitely.
Oh, really? Okay. Do you feel conflicted at any points there when if the Democrats, are sort of pushing something that may be against Christian beliefs?
I guess one of the things is I separate my faith from politics as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think I look at it more as, and maybe I need to back up, but I think more about what is right for all people, not necessarily what is right for a certain group of people that have a certain religious,
Yeah.
A certain religious belief, if that makes sense.
I just want to say really quickly, I think that's the ideal that we need in our country, and that's part of, I think, the current
Thinking about what's right for
yeah,
everybody?
having people think, both on the right and the left, everybody and of whatever political persuasion, thinking pragmatically about what's going to work in this country. We've got a variety of people here. What do we do to make a country work? And so I agree, and I think it's important, in my thinking, it's really important to make a differentiation. We've got to think about making a big political thing work, right? And it needs to work for Christians, and it needs to work for non-Christians, it needs to work for deists. We need to make it work.
It needs to work for gays.
Absolutely.
But I think that
Exactly.
Michelle is in the minority there, in saying that she can separate her faith from her politics. I think that's much easier said than done, and I don't think people can do that.
So I'm going to take you up on that. I think that's what the popular perspective is now, because everybody, the media or whatever it is, it just seems like that's how things get portrayed now, is that people are, when somebody is a right-winger, they're a Christian. It's a Christian right-wing, and so that's emphasized a lot in the conversation. I think that there's a lot of normal people out there of whatever faith that are a lot more down to earth in their thinking. And just like we talked about last week, right? The loudest voices are the ones that we all talk about, and they attract the most attention, whether they're Muslim or Christian or anything else.
I completely agree with Bryan.
And
I
so
think it's
the
really
extreme
easy to
ones are the loudest.
categorize people, to put people, okay, they're Christians, so they believe this, and they're a Muslim and they believe this, and they're gay, so they're going to do this. And I think people are much more complex than that.
right,
I agree.
it's prejudice. Ultimately, we've prejudged them based on certain characteristics. We think they have all the rest, which isn't
Exactly.
ever true.
It's interesting because you're accusing me, and rightly so, of judging Christians or right-wing people the same way that they are then judging gays or something, which is interesting.
The accusations have just started.
Yeah,
by
no,
the way.
I believe it. Thank you for your call, Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
But even if there wasn't, just philosophically, even if there wasn't religion, because the argument is always like, well, what if there wasn't religion? Man would create something else to fight over, whether it's land or women.
Well,
So I don't think that it's necessarily religion. I think that we flock towards these institutions, which include religion. But even without it, I still think, we would make these colossal.
here's the argument that I don't like along those lines, Mike, and this is one that politicians make constantly, and that is, if you do this, if we go down this road, if we start doing this, then X, Y, Z is going to happen. We're going to, this is going to be Sodom and Gomorrah. If you start to, the American
God's
family
going to
is
judge
gonna,
this country.
Yeah, and the idea that we need religion to have good morals is completely wrong to me. I don't need religion to know what is right and what is wrong. And I don't think anybody does. It helps some people to decide, and some people feel like it helps them stay on the path. To me, that's like, the reason I'm not going around kicking homeless people is not because I want to get into heaven. It's because that's the wrong thing to do. I don't have an urge to do that. It's not because the Bible says don't do that or because Jesus would be mad. I just know I don't want to go kick a homeless person today. I don't need that in my life to direct me, and I feel like some people think they need that, whether they do or not, or they find some solace in this book and they say, this is going to here's some rules I can live by. But to insinuate that if we violate those rules, if we let gays get married, if we let women have an abortion, this is going to lead to the unraveling of, boy, look out, society's going to go off the rails. And that's just a crazy argument to me. We all know right from wrong, pretty much. Sociopaths don't, murderers don't. But I think we all have a built-in sort of moral compass. I think animals have, sort of a moral compass of their own in some way. I mean, I think it's a very primitive instinct. And I don't feel like we need religion in that at all. And I'm tired of it being painted like if we do this, society's going to suffer. And who are you to judge, what we're going to suffer and whether this is right or wrong? I mean, we should all just say, does this feel right? Does this feel wrong? And, I harp on the gay marriage thing a lot because it's sort of the last bastion of, what should I call it? I mean, it's not racism or sexism per se, but I mean, it's the last thing that you can really hate people for and not get in trouble in this country, it seems like. I mean, we had the civil rights movement, and 50, 60 years ago, it was okay to not like black people.
Well, it's okay to hate Muslims. A lot of people feel that it's okay to do that.
I think more people feel like it's okay
to hate gay people.
I do. I think people. Well, I don't know. That's a good one. I don't know.
Just to be clear, Christianity doesn't teach to hate.
The purpose
people,
of the church is to evangelize.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of, because if you're a Christian and you believe that original sin has brought death into the world, then we want, or religion wants, everyone to be saved. So its purpose, the church's purpose, is to evangelize and save people from.
I don't want to be evangelized. Leave me alone.
Then say no.
It's tough. It's a tough. I'm with Mick on this. I have family members that I don't talk to as much anymore because it's like an evangelical speech every time I'm in the room.
Well, and Mike's a sinner.
And I'm a sinner.
I think we all know that already.
I'm a heathen. So, yeah, and it's sad. That's the most frustrating thing about becoming an adult is, and I don't know, but one thing I admire about you, Jim, is you're a believer and you don't evangelize. I swear to you, I'll mention this though, guys. If I was to pick a group of people in my life and I didn't know anything about their religious beliefs and they were my favorite people, they're 9 out of 10 are Christian. So there are Christians out there that don't evangelize, and I would pick those people to go stay in my house and,
Well, evangelization could be your example.
Okay.
Instead of going like that to someone, just live your life.
By setting an example.
By setting an example.
I see what
you're
saying.
Like setting an example, being a moral person, but not necessarily a Christian.
I think I am a moral person. I'm not a Christian. But again, I just know in my heart what's right and what's wrong and what feels right. And there are some things that are a gray area where you find yourself thinking, I'm conflicted about this. And those are probably the times when people go and talk to their priest, or they go, for some guidance on this. And some people go to therapists, and some people go to other places. But I don't think a lack of religion makes you an immoral person, I guess, is sort of the message there. I want to remind folks, you could give us a call, 503-207-7135.
Right, let's call in. People,
give us a call.
And I'd like to talk for a minute about something that I feel strongly about, and that is that I was talking about kind of what I perceive to be the history of the marriage, if you will, between religion and Christianity. The thing that
between religion and politics, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry, religion and Christian. Excuse me. And so it's a complex thing. I guess that I believe, and I said it a minute ago, that people seeing the Christian right or equating politics with Christianity has been a disaster for Christianity. Mm-hmm. And because just like we talked about a minute ago, if Christianity should be known for anything. If you think about Jesus, okay, believe him or not, but I mean the stories that you read is, when the Pharisees wanted to stone a woman caught in sin, he's the one who writes on who says to them, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." And he's the one who constantly came to the defense of helpless people who were the outcasts of society, and restored them in front of people over and over again. And the religious people, and the thing that we forget, the officially religious people, okay, in my opinion, the religious right of the day, okay, of Jesus' day, are the ones who hated him, because he constantly challenged them with their religious arguments and said, you're using religion to forget about mercy. God cares about individual people. He cares about that soul. Doesn't matter if she's a prostitute, if it's a homosexual, if it's a whatever. Doesn't matter. And Jesus was in the business of being a restorer to those people. And so the marriage of religion and politics today has ruined that. And so you see people trying to make laws and force people to do things that they don't want to do, that they don't believe in. And I think that's the key thing. You talk about evangelism. It's fine to have a religious belief and have that motivate you to behave in a particular way. But when you come in over the top and attempt to force people to do something that they don't want to do, they say, you're being a religious bigot. You're trying to make me do something that I don't want to do. And my argument is that's inherently unchristian. And I could spend time quoting Bible and chapter and verse for that. One thing, if you read the Bible, read the book of Galatians. There's whole arguments in the New Testament that says observance of the law doesn't accomplish anything that God wants. If you follow rules, you don't know anything. Basically, is the whole is large chunks of the argument of the New Testament. And so, my point is that the religious right is destructive to Christianity, because people wind up hating the church and hating Christ and hating everything that it stands for because of politics, because of the force of rules coming in over the top.
I don't know that I could say people hate the church or hate Christ because of politics.
Okay.
I think that's a leap.
All right. They do hate the politics.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the point. And they equate those politics with that group. And I would agree with Michelle, our caller, that the idea that those politics are part and parcel of the religion is very destructive to the religion and anti-mercy, anti-love, anti-all those things, which is what the church should be about. And I can see you want to say something just real quickly. The thing also is that the people who are not part of the church understand that intuitively. They see those rules coming in over the top, and they say, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. That's wrong. I don't really know what you guys are or what you think exactly, but I just know that that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
But nobody knows what we're supposed to be
increases
doing.
the conflict.
Nobody knows it. Everybody's trying to follow the same book. Everybody's interpreting it different ways. Half the people don't believe in the book, including myself. So this whole theory that, like, well, these people have Christianity all wrong, and these people have Christianity right, that's crazy on its face. None of us know what Christianity is. It's something to Jim. It's something to you. It's nothing to me.
You could argue that, though. There's a range of things. So you could say, yes, you couldn't identify it down to the gnat's eyelash, but you can narrow it down.
Yeah, but
using a lot of different
the
things.
very definition of forcing it on people is politics.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
But I think what Bryan is saying is the fact that the left, if we're going to talk that lingo, the left starts to hate Christians for no reason other than the fact that the guys on the right, Michelle Malkin and all those guys are Christians, and they're they're one and the same. So there is this where we start to become enemies. The one thing that I have to say is I'm a strange bird because I don't know, nor do I necessarily care if there's a God. I think I'm an ant, and I'll never understand a human being ever. And
So you're a deist.
But I don't judge people who believe or don't believe, and that's the hardest part that I've had to come to terms with. Is that I've really been like working on, because they could be right.
Okay, so I think the people on the left are tired of hearing it. I don't think that we, and I use the term we because I'm on the left. I don't think people on the left judge Christianity for it necessarily, but I do feel like we're tired of getting it shoved down our throats at every turn. And I'm tired of hearing, and I'm tired of Christians who are on the right and part of the right-wing movement insinuating that we are the ones trying to shove something down their throat. There's a war on Christmas. There's a war on...
Liberals run the media. I mean,
Yeah, no.
There's
It's garbage.
An argument against the liberal side.
They certainly run this show.
Down Christians' throats too. I mean, every story on the front page of the internet is about
No.
a gay guy got beat up, and like there's an argument on both sides. I think we should
No.
concede that.
I
No,
will say this.
Mike, you're wrong.
I want to just say something real quick though. To that is that who I don't really care or know who shoved first, but what happens is one group shoves, the other group shoves back, the other group shoves, and so I think it is true that the Christians that say, well, things are getting rammed down their throat, but it's because so I'm going to go there. The classic example is abortion. Because you've got the group on one side that says, oh my gosh, you can't have an abortion at a fetus that's been inseminated for 30 seconds is now a full-fledged human being. You can't do anything to it. It's absolutely off limits. There's that extreme, and then you go all the way to the people that are basically, and they do it. They're arguing for abortion at 8 3/4 months. And
There are very few people who argue for that.
but
they
they're
are
out there. The groups are out there. The point is that they both take the extreme position, just so that they can argue with each other, to try to pull the mean toward them a little bit. Whereas the vast majority of the United States of America understand. Look, a second, if we can get an abortion done in the first trimester of pregnancy, the people who are pro-life certainly don't like that. I mean, it's not right, and to have the people who are pro-choice don't want to have it limited to a first trimester. But the truth is that I think the vast majority of people, again, back to the pragmatic running of the country, it's got to work for everybody. Everybody can kind of look each other in the eye and say, abortion's here to stay, and we need to figure out something that makes sense that we can all finally just drop it. I'm not trying to bring up abortion, but it's the classic example.
No, you brought it up now, now I'm going to go into it.
But it's the classic example of one shoving one way and one shoving the other way, and both parties feeling like something's being forced on them that they don't want. And when the compromise, when the compromise position is right there in front of everyone, but everybody would rather fight about it.
Okay, wait. So many things wrong here that I got to jump in. Not with you necessarily, but you're saying it's forced on somebody. This is the whole difference between the two arguments here. Gay marriage.
I'm talking about politics now, but
Right.
politically forced.
Right, politically forced on you. No one is forcing you to get an abortion.
Of course.
You don't want to get an abortion, do not get an abortion.
Right.
Nobody is forcing
Yes.
you to marry another man. If you don't want to marry another man, do not marry another man.
Well,
if you
I'm
want to
just
marry
kidding.
another man, go ahead, fine. But that's the difference here. We're not forcing it on you.
That's a good argument.
Beyond that, the same people who say, boy, abortion is wrong, we shouldn't do abortion, are completely fine with the death penalty and war, which
that's
is
again, but that's lumping it.
Which is
the
killing-
Quakers aren't. I mean, there's a
No,
whole
they're-
there's whole massive groups of Christians that are absolutely not okay with either one of those two things.
the majority. Can I say the majority?
Well,
Yes, the majority.
a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Okay.
The same ones. So you say, okay, geez, you don't want abortions, then surely we should have more birth control, right? I mean, that just goes without saying, because then there will be less abortions. Oh, no. Wait a minute now. You can't give people birth control, then they're just going to go out and have sex, and that's not holy.
Well,
And you can't use Plan B, because that's the same as an abortion. It's not. Newsflash, it stops you from getting pregnant. You're now deciding that life begins before the womb. Like, it just, life began at prom when these two were having a drink.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that. You don't get to just decide that. And
they drank at their prom.
they're never happy with it. There can be no compromise, because you say, okay, fine, you don't want it in the first trimester, but you'll deal with it. They won't deal with that. They don't want birth control. They don't want condoms. They don't want anything. They don't want people having sex. Okay? That's crazy talk. All right? And I won't stand for it.
Well,
No, but
that isn't true though. So that's
It is true.
That isn't true.
What's not true?
So we're being since we're being so accurate that they don't want to have people having sex. That's not true.
Oh my God, Republicans hate sex.
That isn't true.
It's
they have it.
absolutely-
They have.
Well,
A lot of them have lots of wives.
I know they have
mean,
it in bathrooms.
Guys, I'm sure you guys know the old joke, right? You gotta date Democrats, you gotta marry a Republican.
Nah.
Never heard that.
You have to date a heathen, you have to marry a Christian.
No.
I belong to no organized political party. That's why I'm a Democrat.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Will Rogers said that.
Bill Rogers.
It's true. It's true. No, it's absolutely. Are you kidding me? They don't. Why? What's wrong with birth control? Why won't the
Nothing.
religious right let us have birth control?
The religious right will let you have birth control.
They try
so
to stop it at
you're,
every
you're lumping,
turn.
You're lumping a whole bunch of things together, and so if you're talking about the recent Obamacare thing, they were attempting to force Catholic hospitals.
No, I'm
to
not even
dispense.
talking about that.
So that's where the last thing came, and so the people of various religious stripes said, and
They're
some
trying to
of them
force
were-
hospitals to provide medical care. That's
Well,
awful.
Okay, so I'm just trying to say though that's a argument that really isn't much of an argument. So you're saying
but
that
they don't
you're
want
saying
Plan
that
B to
all of
exist.
all of religion doesn't agree with birth control, and that's not true. So I guess
I'm
that's,
not saying that. I'm saying the religious right politically does not
Yes,
want. They don't want Plan B. They do not
Well,
want
do you
that.
think
Plan-
there's a
Plan B.
falling birth
the morning
rate
after
in
pill.
Europe?
yeah
the morning
okay.
after pill.
Yes.
It is not an abortion pill. It has nothing to do with abortion, and it should be a win-win for everybody. You don't want people to have abortions. Make this available to people, and they just refuse. And I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. When they'll come up with some excuse, well, that's not what God had in mind.
Well,
or you're,
some
you're
people
playing
would
God.
say that the sexual revolution and the whole idea that sex, whenever you want, for the pleasure
For
of it,
enjoyment, yeah.
with whoever you want, and then is
They use
connected
guns.
somehow with the falling birth rate in Europe and here among Caucasian people. You think that's true?
The sexual revolution.
The sexual revolution,
Cause declining birth rates?
separating the sexual act from procreation has and birth control has caused a declining birth rate, like in Europe, Russia.
I would say I haven't really heard that too much about that, but I think it makes sense that the separation of sex from marriage, I think,
Right.
is the broader to me is would be part of that. Sure. I mean, if you
So
get
is that good or bad, or
good or bad,
It's a tough judgment to make.
it just
I don't know.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, it just is. And again,
I mean, I grew up in
who
the-
we have sex with is nobody's business. I'm not having sex with you. Not you
hope not.
personally, Jim.
Yeah.
Brian, we're still on the fence. But what I'm saying is,
Maybe you are.
You don't get to vote based on who I have sex with. You vote for whatever you want. You have sex with who you want. You marry who you
Have
want.
you ever had a threesome?
Why do you? Well, we made it.
Christians love threesomes.
We made it-
Remember that.
We made it 48 minutes into the show before Jim's first inappropriate comment.
Okay.
Well done, Jim. Again, it all comes down to live your life. As long as you are not affecting me, do what you want to do. Be happy. Do whatever you want to do. If you want to put out a rug and pray 6 times a day facing a specific direction because you think that that's going to get you into heaven, great. Go at it. Do not strap on bombs because you think that I believe something different than you. If you want to go to church on Sundays, great. Do not stop me from marrying
there's
another
so
man
many
if I want to do that because it's none of your
Interpretations
business.
of religion. That
That's
it's
why
a
you
good
can't-
idea to have separation of church and state.
Exactly.
Because everyone has their own idea of what religion is. So, have freedom of religion, freedom to worship however, wherever, and with whom you want, but the public space, the commons,
Mhm.
needs to be free of religion, free of that.
Mhm.
And I just want to say real quickly, when I say these things about politics, I don't think that a person who's a Christian or of any faith, a Muslim or whatever, there's nothing wrong with being involved in politics, being in Congress, doing all those sorts of things. I agree with you. And I think that if you want to be pro-life or whatever the position is that you feel you need to argue, you make the argument, but I don't think that I see video of congressmen quoting the Bible in Congress, and it's sort of like it's ineffective, but it's also pandering to a certain group. But it just seems like we need to be more pragmatic as a country and make the argument based on sound thinking and logic that has a chance of appealing to others.
Sound thinking and logic.
That has a chance of appealing to people who don't share your faith with you.
People in Texas, they are teaching creationism in the schools there as though it's fact.
What was the
Do you
latest
think that
thing
they're
in
teaching
North
evolution
Carolina?
as well?
They're supposed to be teaching both.
So they're teaching it as an alternative. They're teaching it as one of the
They
ways
want
of
to
looking
teach
at things.
intelligent design as an alternative, and they want to warn the children that evolution is not necessarily a fact. This could also be true.
So then you agree that saying that what you said by saying they're teaching creationism as fact isn't really quite what they're doing. They're teaching it as one of the things that can be.
I don't know. I think some of them are just teaching that as the way that it is. I don't know. I don't live in Texas for many, many reasons.
Okay.
But the fact
Texas,
is,
that's a whole nother show.
you cannot pretend that evolution doesn't exist and that we don't have all the science to back that stuff up. And the only reason to teach something else in school is because the religious right has pushed that on people and said, hey, you commies are teaching evolution, and we want, that doesn't jive with my view of the world that was created in 6 days. And you can't teach that to children in school. It's not based on anything whatsoever. There is zero factual basis.
Of 100% of everything there is to know in the universe, what percent do you think we know?
Oh God, I don't
A
think
little
it even
bit, or-
registers. No,
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't think it even registers. That's the whole point. That's why we have science. I mean, advances in science open up the world
Do you
and the
think
galaxy
that there's a
like
possibility
never
that someday, I don't know, 1,000 years from now, science will know everything there is to know about the universe?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
That's where God
I don't
comes
think it's
in.
knowable. That's where God comes in.
That's
right.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
What was there before there was time? I don't know. I can't even wrap my brain around that. That's
Right.
where we stick God.
If we don't have three-dimensional space going through time, what is outside of that? We're
My
in-
mind is
we're
blown.
in-
That's
right.
the point.
Stop it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the whole point, and that's where we say, okay, well, there's got to be someone who has the
So there's a
answer.
spiritual component to
Absolutely.
existence
I think
that
so.
is outside of space and time.
Maybe when we know everything there is to know in the universe, we will evolve into beings of pure energy, and we will no longer be humans, and who knows what will happen.
Speaking of
Then
evolution,
we'll
I
meet Captain
think
Kirk.
Yeah, a little bit.
my dog, I think, is not fully a dog anymore because we love the dog so much that that dog has evolved. And if it had children, and she's spayed, but if she had children, I think they would be on a higher evolutionary plane. They would not be fully dog.
They would
wouldn't
eat
be
with
fully
knives
human.
and forks and be much more civilized.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
I'll buy that.
All right.
Sure. Is your dog religious, Jim? Do you feel like she judges?
I thought about taking her to church, but
Then she took
I
a
think
crap
they
in the
do. I
confessional
think
and
they
it was
do
all
have
over.
the blessing of the blessing of the pets. I think they do.
Sure, I'm
in
sure
the
they do. It's
Catholic
big
Church.
industry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we
yeah.
all agree that animals, especially dogs, are like angels?
Where are the people that are here seeing this? Do you think there's more than 6 people watching this show right now?
Watching it live?
I want them to call in. I want them to call in.
I do too. We've
Call
only,
in,
We've only
please.
got 4
All
minutes
of you
left
that
in
are
the show.
watching, you don't know how much we think of you.
That's right.
We love you. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
We do. We want you to evolve to the next plane of existence as well. And you can only do that by calling this phone number right now.
This
That's
show
right.
has been incomplete so
Right.
far. We
I
know
don't
that
know
we're
about that.
missing something really important and that you have that piece of
No, I
information.
mean, the reason that we have this show and the reason that we sit around and talk about stuff is to try to have the discussions that people are afraid to talk about or that people don't want to talk about candidly. And religion and politics, I mean, those are the 2 things you don't want to bring up at a
And they're
dinner
so
table,
close.
You know, it's like,
I mean, religion and politics.
I know.
Because
Politics uses religion a lot. I mean, if you can distill down and
A friend
simplify.
of mine, Steven, has called in
All
as
right.
per your request.
Great, Stephen.
All right, Stephen, we got a little
Roll,
over 3
Stephen.
minutes
well,
left.
yeah,
so
the time's getting short.
what do you got, Stephen?
Hey guys, I'm sorry if this is bad call-in etiquette, but I did have a religious sort of quandary that I've been discussing with friends that I thought you guys might be able to contribute to.
All right, we'll do our best.
Yeah, sorry if this is off topic. So what the situation is, I've never grown up in a religious household. I've never sort of had any religious inclinations. You know, I just don't believe that it's the truth. So I'm not, but my friend now, she's Mormon. You know, intelligent girl, you know, growing up, she's like 23, sort of getting her grounding in life now. And what it sounds like is she doesn't personally believe the teachings of the church anymore.
That's because you said she was intelligent.
Growing up in Utah, all of the friends and the social structure that's sort of been created over there is based around the religion. And the social supports that come with that are so strong that she's terrified of the idea, even if she doesn't really believe it's true, abandoning that sort of social structure. And it's really a way I haven't thought about religion before as far as like the merits of it. But it kind of brought up the question to me is the fact that Mormonism and that culture in Utah, that it can create such a strong social support and structure and amazing community like that, I'm kind of battling with, does that add merit to the religion there?
You know,
just on those sort of things, even if I don't believe it's the truth.
So that's interesting. You came at that from a completely different angle than I thought you were. We've only got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to try to make a quick comment here.
Yeah, bad timing.
That's okay. You were pointing out that you know, does the fact that religion has created that community make it a good thing? The entire time you were talking, I was thinking about what you're saying is that this religion has formed a cult that if she leaves, she won't be able to talk to her friends anymore. So I read that a completely different way.
I had a similar thought. I'm not sure if I see it as a good thing or a bad thing. I think the community and support that it's created is amazing. I love.
It's amazing when you're in the.
Mormons I've ever met, I've loved.
It's amazing when you're in the community.
But then also the fact that it's so exclusionary.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
Well, thank you for your call, Steve. I've known people that were, you know, they're Mormon and the person that they're marrying is not Mormon, or the person that they're marrying's mother is not Mormon and she can't attend the wedding. They go in and they have the wedding and the mother-in-law waits on the steps outside, and why would you want to marry into something like that? I'll never understand it.
Well, read that book, Under the Banner of Heaven.
I'll have to check it out. What
great.
is it about Mormonism or what?
Yeah, it's kind of the history of Mormonism and from a non-Mormon perspective.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we got to start wrapping it up now. I want to thank everybody for watching. Our next show is going to be on the 3rd. I think we're going to talk about education. I think that's
education.
Education. I think that's a good topic. I've got some thoughts on it. College, you know, costs, all kinds. There's all sorts of topics around education I'd like to talk about. Visit us our website, wrongtvshow.com. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/wrongtvshow.
And check out Ring of Fire Radio. Mike Papantonio. Yeah, check that out.
All right, there's a plug from Jim, so have a good one. Thanks, folks.